Yo, what is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome to Fun Speculation. Mav here. And today we have news. We have the answers. No more fun speculation about the studios and what's happening
Games
because,
of Season Gaming did an awesome write-up on this. Actually, great journalism there.
yo, thanks, Joseph Lemons. Appreciate the $5 super chat. I will check that out. Maybe we'll talk about it on the stream. Respect to Ains and Season Gaming. Does great work over there. One of the few gaming journalists or websites that are doing things the right way. But yeah, we no longer have to think or try and determine all the possibilities right now because we have some answers. Well, I mean, there's still gonna be a lot of that, to be honest, because things are always changing. You never know the future of things, but we do have really clear answers for right now. And in a weird twist, right? All the stuff going on the last week that we've been talking about with games media and naming every studio under the sun and saying how every game is getting canceled and every studio is closing and all this other kind of nonsense and stuff is actually kind of led this to become a softer landing than would have been otherwise, probably for Xbox. And also, we can look at this in a multitude of ways because while today is not a great day, because obviously lots of people are affected, you have a lot of people that have lost their jobs, you have a large amount of layoffs, and more to come. There will be more to come. There's also some silver linings here as some of the most important aspects of when you have restructures or resets or layoffs and all this other kind of things. The one thing you don't want to lose is identities of studios and culture, and you don't want to lose games that we have to look forward to and all these other kind of things to go along with it as gamers. And a lot of that was also saved today. So no more of that speculation as we do have the answers. Maybe one studio still possibly up in the air because we don't have 100% clarity on that yet. Although I think there's definitely a lot of hope to have for that. But what I want to do is kind of first go in and dive deep into the Xbox Wire post, the Asha Sharma letter about this hammer that fell with the Xbox reset and kind of see what happened, talk about the individual aspects of it, and kind of decipher what this means for Xbox in the future. And are they stronger for this? Is this going to lead them in the right direction? Was this necessary? All that kind of stuff. Because you see all the things in the sun, you're still going to have a lot of games media trying to crucify Xbox for these things. But however, like a lot of things that are happening that signifies that Xbox is not done. Microsoft is not done investing in Xbox and gaming, and that maybe there is that green pastures on the other side, right? So let's dive deep into this. Let's go in to see exactly what happened today, and we'll go from there. But before we do it, like again, respect to anybody that was laid off and affected, from this. It absolutely sucks. I hope anybody that was affected land on your feet. I hope the packages you receive for getting laid off are strong. I know with contract workers, it's probably a different situation. I remember when I was younger, my mom was actually part of a company that was bought by Oracle that then was shuttered. So she was affected, but she had a contract, so it wasn't the same as the actual employees that had been there for a long time. You know what I mean? So it's different. This is going to impact people differently. Not everybody's going to have the kind of parachute to ride down on and help them reach a soft landing somewhere. Some of them is going to impact more directly, sooner than later, right? But anybody that's been affected, I hope things go well for you. And in any industry, we cover gaming here, but this one was a big layoff today. So 1,600 people today, 3,200 people roughly uh, this year at some point are looking for jobs. So hope you find them. I really do. I expect maybe some new studios to be formed. I expect other studios to be hiring, all this other kind of stuff. Let's get into this. Get into this post. Simple Jack says I smoked 3 cigs reading Asha's letter. Right on, dude. Right on. All right. Resetting Xbox. I'm gonna make this big. It's gonna kind of cover my face a little bit, just because I want you guys to be able to read it as along with me. Here we go. We are beginning the most significant restructure in Xbox history. After careful consideration, I've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 throughout fiscal year 27. This will include approximately 1,600 role eliminations today. And in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. Now, I do have just the way that this was worded, and I would like clarification on this, and I don't know if they already have clarified or not, but the way that this is worded right here, after careful consideration, I've made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 throughout fiscal year 27. And then immediately following that, it says this will include approximately 1,600 role eliminations today. And in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox to new management. Does the 4 studios leaving for new management count towards that 3,200 on top of the 1,600 role eliminations? That's what I want to know, right? Or is the 3,200 total separate? Was the 3,200 like separate from the studios? Because it says this will, like, she included it in one sentence after. So I just would like clarification on that. So it says I made the difficult decision to reduce our team by approximately 3,200 throughout fiscal year 2027. Because if you're moving on from 4 studios, then that's still reducing Team Xbox, right? So 1,600 role eliminations, and in addition, 4 studios will leave Xbox new management. So I wonder if, like, 1,600 today plus whatever amount came with these studios, and then whatever's left over to reach the 3,200, or is it 1,600 today? The 4 studios moving on to new life somewhere else, and then an additional 1,600. You know what I mean? Hasn't said the studios count. That's what this wording makes it. This wording makes it seem like the studios count towards the 3,200, but I don't know. Because, like, she makes a point to say it includes approximately 1,600 role eliminations and in addition four studios to count towards that 3,200 is the way I read it. But, like, it's not clear, so it could be 3,200 on top of the 40, or on top of the 4 studios. I don't know. Either way, right? Simple Jack says I think it's a total 3,200. That's what, like, I was kind of assuming as well based on the reading this, but I can tell based on the language out there from people reporting on this, they're all saying that there's going to be 1,600 more layoffs on top. So I don't know. I think it's a little unclear right now, and I'm just putting that out there that I think that's a little unclear and hazy because when I read this, my immediate thought was, does those four studios count towards that 3,200, right? Because it's like you put a 3,200, and then we're making that up of 1,600, and in addition, four studios we're moving on from, right? I don't know. Anyway, I recognize that a year long restructuring creates additional challenges. Unfortunately, it is not possible to make all the necessary changes in a single day. And I wanted to be direct about the scale. So that's the other part that makes it like that adds to like, okay, so there are more layoffs, but like still like the number of those four studios isn't going to equal 1,600 people, right? So like, what if the four studios equates to like 500 people? Then that's like 2,100, and then you're left with another 1,100, right? Like, you know what I mean? I just I don't know 100%. The Duck of Death says, however many people are among the four studios, it is worded that population is all or a part of the other 1,600. Yeah, I think it's a part of, because I don't think those studios are that big. So anyway, I mean, ultimately, we're just talking about semantics here of numbers. I'm just curious about how many people are going to be affected. So ABC News just posted 48. That's Microsoft in general. So but Microsoft as a whole had layoffs, right? And then Xbox was a portion of that. So it's not just all Xbox. This was like I had been talking about in the last couple days. This was going to come down as a larger part of the Microsoft layoffs and be announced at the same time. So this is, even though the bulk of it is coming from Xbox, we have the grander thing is Microsoft. So where you have Microsoft having a larger amount, you have Xbox a portion of it. And I could see what the Microsoft layoffs. We'll see what the see. Microsoft announced they're laying off approximately 4,800.
Layoffs suck. Amazon and UPS and FedEx had many, many more this year alone. To the hair on fire hashtag CC, rolling eyes face emoji, hashtag bloodbath my ass, mob I'm not talking about you, fist emoji.
Yeah, right on, bro. Appreciate the 5 Mac 22TH54. You rock. So the 4,800, just to let you guys know, they're putting that in the chat. That's not Xbox. That's Microsoft, right? And we're covering gaming here, so I'm not going to get into like the other teams or whatever. But like 2/3 in general is being either eliminated or they are moving on away from Xbox from the 3,200. So I know this is painful. These changes will directly affect people who have poured their creativity into building Xbox. Many joined us through acquisitions, while others were recruited here or sought us out because they loved this industry and loved Xbox. Today's decisions do not reflect their talent or dedication. Our business today is not healthy. We are operating at margins that are 3 to 10 times lower than comparable platform and publishing businesses. That's crazy. We entered Gen 9 with a smaller install base and a higher cost structure. To grow, we bet on Game Pass, multi-platform, and a broader portfolio of content. While those businesses have created meaningful value, they did not grow at the pace we expected. As that happened, our core business weakened, and we added more teams, more investment, and more time, hoping for a better outcome. And now the industry is facing the most severe hardware crisis in its history. We must reset Xbox. Now this goes to everybody. Like, I understand there's greed aspects to every corporate structure and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's not like Xbox is just reporting record profits and all this other kind of stuff, right? Like this is when they announced their latest financials. Things didn't look good with the margins and all that other kind of stuff. So we talked about the last reports that came in with the last financials that came out a few months ago, and it was like, oh wow, that's not good. And if that, because content and services were down, and beforehand, content and services were always kind of supporting the rest of the stuff. Whereas like hardware kept declining, but content and services kept increasing. Well, after last year and the price increase to Game Pass, and all these other kind of things, and the subsidies keep increasing for hardware as well, then you have the just decline of revenue and the decline of profits. And when content and services was down, it was like, oh, they're not going to like to see that, right? And if content and services is decreasing, then that screams to the bigger problems at hand. And this is, I think, why a lot of decisions were made to change course. Now, here we getting into the answers. First, we will reset our content portfolio. Since 2018, we have aggressively expanded our studio portfolio, while the number of games created each month across the industry now outpaces the last 10 years combined. We now find ourselves competing not only with the largest publishers, but also with the smaller independent studios. It is neither possible nor desirable to own every great independent studio. We have also learned that we are not the best home for every type of studio. In a typical year, we lost 64 cents for every dollar we invested. That's pretty crazy right there, right? As we reset Xbox, we will help independent creators succeed by providing open development tools and audiences to realize their vision. So this talks about, like, instead of owning these studios and having to own these studios to make content for Game Pass and all that kind of stuff, they're just going to invest in, kind of like the whole old school style of making it easy to develop games for Xbox for these indie devs, make deals with some of them to bring their games to Xbox, all that other kind of stuff, instead of the costly endeavor of running these studios for years with little output. Compulsion Games and Double Fine Productions will return to management and transition to independent studios with their IP catalog and runway for their next game. So that was like a big speculation point for us. I mean, even after the whole Xbox Wire post, when the next 100 days Xbox Reset thing came out, it was my first jumping to my mind was Double Fine, Compulsion Studios, like that, and what was going to happen with them. And then we talked about hopefully they can, best case scenario is maybe be independent, and it looks like I got to give some credit here. Whereas, we're used to seeing studios when these things happen or these get announced, just like the studio's closed. We're announcing the studio's being closed. And I'm talking about from other platform holders, publishers, all that kind of stuff. Um, like Blue Point. Hey, we're closing Blue Point. When PlayStation closed them, or like Ubisoft closes a studio, or Square did in the past, things like that. It's just like, hey, this is what we did, right? And here they're letting us know they're gonna be independent again, and they're getting their IP, their catalog, and runway for their next game. So the runway for their next games, I'm guessing there's some kind of investment that's still going on with the games that they have had in development already. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out. Um, because they are basically saying that they are in development of next games, or runway for the next games. I'm curious about the actual meaning behind that and what they have in the works. So guess we'll find out at some point. Ninja Theory and Undead Labs have entered terms to join new ownership with funding to complete and grow Senua and State of Decay 3. So this is one that's very interesting as well, because these were two games that people were like, well, these were just shown at the summer showcase. What's happening with these games? Uh, they have a buyer. Xbox worked out a deal with those studio heads, and they found um a buyer for Ninja Theory and Undead Labs. I don't know if it's a tandem deal. I don't know if it's separate companies. Who who knows, right? Somebody is acquiring Undead Labs and State of Decay 3, and or Undead Labs and State of Decay 3 and Hellblade, or Hellblade and Ninja Theory, right? So you got two studios moving on to different ownership. Curious who it is. I don't know if anybody knows in the chat who, if it's been reported on who this possible buyer could be. I imagine another publisher of some sort. Could be another platform holder like PlayStation, or it could be somebody like Epic, or like I don't know, Netflix, Amazon. Like I don't fucking, I have no idea. I don't know who is in the spending phase for Western studios right now, right? Like in general, they could be like a smaller acquirers that's like want to run them as independent studios still. I don't know. Um, 3-bit, shout out to you, man. Says had some friends get laid off. Sucks. Yeah, absolutely sucks, man. Really does. And just so you know, 3-bit, Rare was not mentioned in this. I know you had it out for them, but and maybe they had some layoffs, but they weren't mentioned so far. Um, in France, Arcane's management is being required consultation with its works council to review potential strategic options. So in France, the laws are different. There's a lot of different avenues or aspects they have to deal with this, and it's going to take time apparently for whatever transition they make to take hold. So we'll see what happens with Arcane. But as of now, I haven't seen anything about Blade being canceled, other than it was just it had been internally delayed and it's over budget, which is something that came out from some reports. But ultimately, they didn't say they're moving on from the project or anything like that. In fact, they went on to say that no announced games were canceled, so that would include Blade, I would imagine. Spider-Man says, "Why would Rare leave?" I was just joking about 3-bit because he's always messing with Rare, talking smack about Rare in the chat, because all they've made in the last decade is Sea of Thieves stuff. Um, in addition, Mojang and King will now report directly to me. These two studios have increasingly become platforms and are our largest bi-monthly active players. They bring critical geographic, demographic, and differentiation to Xbox. So, and I would say that out of the other major studios that Xbox has still, that these are the probably more like different than all the other ones, as they are just focused on kind of individual things. Now, here's where I think, like, and a lot of people are going to read past this because we as gamers care mostly about the studios, right? But from the studio's perspective, just before we move on, from the studio's perspective, no studio closures. No studios are being able to retain their IP. Two of those studios have found a new buyer. Two of the studios are becoming independent, and the fifth one's kind of in a limbo phase right now. And um, she went on to say that also again, like none of our first party publicly announced games or projects are being canceled as part of these reductions. So I would imagine that includes Blade. Don't know. I don't know that if there's any loopholes with that terminology there or whatever. Um, but as of now, all those games are in the works, and I think part of that is to have something enticing for to help the independent studios and whatever the purchaser of these studios have something to obtain that is more around the corner that is going to potentially make those studios more desirable, right? So that means that they are safe in somewhat, right? Those studios. So I think that's the good news for the studio side from those studios. Now, amongst the other studios, there's going to be lots of layoffs and everything. I don't know exactly what's going on there. There's keeps being more reports about how different studios are affected. I think ZeniMax Online lost 50% of their staff. Some others I forget. I have to go back and look at all of the different um posts about that stuff and kind of dive through the news. Um, but I think a lot of people are going to kind of skip over this part because of the studio implications, and that's what most people care about. But I think part of the biggest restructure at Xbox, because you can look at the studio thing and say, okay, they're moving on from some indie projects, they're moving on from studios that have had limited output over a long period of time. A lot of these studios were acquired in like 2018, and they've either only put out one game. I think Double Fine had two games. Then you have Undead Labs hasn't produced a new game yet. Um, you finally had Compulsion come through with South of Midnight last year, but even the games that did get put out from some of these studios didn't really do anything for Xbox in a way. Like they came out to fulfill the pipeline last year between South and Midnight, Kiln this year, and last year was Keeper. But they didn't really. I mean, maybe win you some awards here and there, right? But other than that, isn't really helping the business aspect of Xbox. So you spend all those years since 2018 investing in it, pouring money into it, and then you don't really get much back in any kind of positive way. I think this is Asha looking at the realities of that and saying, well, it was awesome to be able to fund these games for so long and all these other kind of things, but it's not how we're going to be doing things going forward, right? Or it's not how we're going to be doing things going forward because we can't just afford to have a bunch of studios create a bunch of games that aren't going to necessarily help our business. And that's just the reality of the situation. So this is the part where I think a lot of people are going to look over. And I think this is a crucial part because it also leads to what happened before. And this is the core difference in how they're going to operate under Asha and this new leadership as opposed to Phil and Sarah's Xbox. Third, we are resetting how we operate. Oh, wait, sorry. Second, we will reset our platform. We know that great technology gets better when it gets simpler, not bigger. Today, in some parts of the company, work passes through as many as 14 layers of management. That just sounds absolutely fucking crazy, right? Hey, report to your manager so they can report to their 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 manager so they can report to their. Like, I mean, just come on, right? Like, that is not a way to operate anything, and things get lost in the shuffle. Somebody drops the ball along the way. Somebody's not paying attention. So whatever. It's just there's just that's just too much. 14 layers. That's absolutely just asinine. And then maybe I was like, hey, I'm running this department. I'm running this department, and we all got to work together to make like, come on, like we need to be more efficient than that and less corporatized. Today, in some parts of the company, work passes through as many as 14 layers of management. Our platform teams are 40% larger than they were at the start of this generation. Even as our player base and playtime have declined, wow. So 40% larger on the platform team at the, than they were at the start of this generation, even as the player base and playtime have declined. That's not a way of success, right? That complexity has slowed decisions, blurred accountability, and made it harder to deliver for players. As we reset Xbox, we will simplify. Now, these are the core aspects of the change in direction. And I think, they like the whole grub and all that stuff that are all trying to like, they have this starter mentality and all these other kind of things. Like, they're just operating in more of a fast and fluid timeline. That they aren't going to be. This new leadership is aggressive, wanting to move quickly, has a more of a spirit of getting things done now mentality, and it's I think it's needed. I think it's needed. I think in some aspects of you can have this aspect of bloat to things where things have gotten so kind of just out of hand with structures and uh creating job titles for the sake of creating jobs and all these other kind of things where it's like it creates inner dynamics of politics and convoluted meaninglessness to be able to actually get things accomplished. We saw this with Halo Infinite's content roadmap after launch, and how they were talking about how many things have to pass through so many different layers to be able to get approved to even be released to the public. And it's like, I'm like, just make a fucking map, guys. You know, like it's like just make a fucking map. Like if it doesn't work, it's not. You'll have more. Like it's the amount of testing and research, focus groups, and all these kind of things, and then like, hey, we have to get approval from this. So what if 10 different people like it, but along the way it runs into a hurdle, at some level, and it's like you just I don't know. It just doesn't the over structurization of things and complication, it just kind of sometimes can get in the way of actually being able to create success. And that I think is a large aspect of this restructure here. We will reduce management layers to no more than 5, and where possible 3. We will deliver success through a flatter organization that is built around makers, individual contributors focused on building. So less people involved that are just like corporate entities to sway the developers into making different decisions based on consumerism, and let's let the makers create and fast and efficient. That would be nice. Player coaches. I like that term. Leaders who remain deeply involved in the work while developing their teams. Somebody like a Todd Howard, you know, is somebody that's like a creative, but also a leader in the sense that they're going to be checking with the studios, kind of be a core vision person, less checks and balances in their way. right? And directly responsible individuals who own key decisions and outcomes. Well, yeah, if I make a decision and it doesn't work out, it was on me, right? Not on the 10 people that had the checks and balances around me that I can point the blame at. And we will streamline how we work across our tools with a cleaner code base, shared services, and 50% reduced vendor spend. Less outsourced contracts. So they're trying to steer things more in house into a more dedicated, core focused team that is full of creators. That doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. As we know, the contract work has been problematic with game development and also with Xbox for a while now. So it seems like she's been dissecting the problems and making these decisions based on what she think is going to help Xbox become stronger and more efficient, not just for the sake of cutting costs. Because there's two different things. There's like, hey, we have to get down to this size. What are we going to cut? Well, this has makes us the most money immediately by cutting this. This makes us the most money by cutting this. This is coming across to me in this um, reset that the decisions that are being made here are being made not just for the pure immediacy of cutting costs, but also actually for the betterment of Xbox to operate in a better way going forward. And that's what I think we can hope for. Unfortunately, it comes at a cost of a lot of people that lost their jobs, but that might be a necessity in an industry that's become kind of bloated. Third, we are resetting how we operate. As Xbox grew our headcount, we became more fragmented. Teams, studios, and functions often operate independently, and it became harder to work towards a shared goal, make the right trade offs, and get things done. And I think some people are just going to read into this as the studios, but I think we can look at like, okay, you have the platform teams, you have like like um, the storefront teams, you have like the marketing teams, you have the interface teams, like backwards compatibility teams. You have all those different teams working on different things, and they're not necessarily working together in some ways, right? And you're just kind of fragmented, is what she's saying. So I think more of a unified vision is what she's trying to work them towards. For the first time, we are establishing a COO, Chief Operating Officer, which is, I didn't know they didn't have one, to be honest with you, with end to end profit and loss responsibility across content, hardware, platform, and services. So they're going to be analyzing these different aspects of these teams and be like, hey, um, we need to keep our spending in check. And when you work for a company like Microsoft, I would understand like, hey, I'm working for Microsoft. Maybe I have a free will to spend as much money as possible to get these things accomplished. But sometimes putting checks and balances as far as like how much money you have can actually create more of a streamlined focus, and help people to get things accomplished. And then you'll maybe have like, I need more. You'll have people begging for more budget or this or that, and they'll have to make those decisions along the way. And I guess Helen Chiang will be behind that role because it says Helen Chiang has been promoted to this role and will report directly to me. Over nearly 2 decades at Xbox, Helen has helped build some of our most important businesses, from Xbox Live to leading Mojang and the Minecraft franchise. She will bring our businesses together under one operating model, making sure we make clear investment decisions learning from our successes and failures, and hold ourselves accountable for results. Thank you, Dave McCarthy, who is retiring after 17 years with Xbox. Dave has played a defining role in building the platform that millions of players rely on every day and has been a trusted partner through many of the biggest moments in Xbox's history. We wish him all the best. What was Dave McCarthy's role, chat? Um, I'm not sure, but he's moved on. These changes are about a bigger future for Xbox, not a smaller one. I think that's an important thing to make clear when you're doing something like this, because the media is going to try and be like, "We're sunsetting," she's there to sunset, or that they're just streamlining things to get rid of them or to shut them down, all this other kind of stuff. Xbox is dead. Xbox is dead. Xbox, all this other kind of BS, right? Um, but no, these are about, like I said, these changes seem purposefully made to try and create a stronger business for Xbox, not just pure cutting cost measures. It's accomplishing both, but I think it's like maybe turning what is a dire situation into an opportunity to streamline things to be a more efficient to run more efficiently. Now, it would be nice if you had all the same people there and you could utilize all that extra help and support and people to streamline things, right? And nobody has to lose their job, but that's just the reality of the situation that they're in. The next decade of gaming will be larger, more global, and more creative than anything we've seen before. This year, we'll invest as much in Xbox as we ever have, but we'll invest with greater focus, greater discipline, and greater clarity, all in service of making Xbox where the world plays and creates. I want Xbox to be one of the few companies that entertains more than 1 billion people each day and gives everyone the opportunity to create and connect. I know we can achieve this goal. Xbox has many of the most beloved franchises in entertainment history, talented studios around the world, and we will return to growth in 2027. History is full of companies that mistake longevity for inevitability. We will not be one of them. Strong words, strong letter, and just cutting through the bullshit. Really, I mean, it's kind of been her style. And this one didn't read Asha and Matt. No, this like a lot of the other letters that have been posted have been like Asha and Matt. Like she signed off on this one by herself. Which I noticed that, which was to me is kind of interesting as well. Like, is like she is saying this is the business. I'm standing behind these moves, right? There's nobody else but me. She's taking ownership of it. She is saying that she believes this is what's best for Xbox going forward. Um, Hard moves to make, but made them. And now I think hopefully we can all look forward. I think the best news coming out of this is we still have those studios that have their own games, their own identity, their own culture that we're not losing. Like, man, I want to play State of Decay 3, right? I want to play these games. I've been looking forward to that game for a long time. Be looking forward to it for sure now, and it's gonna happen. Seems like it's gonna happen now. Anything's possible, right? But it seems like these games are gonna come out still. Senua, which was just announced, is still gonna be a thing. Um, Blade, or as of right now, seems to be like safe. And there's no games that were announced as being canceled today. No studios that were announced as being closed. There is mass layoffs affecting probably most of the studios there. A lot, I think, of people just in the platform teams, maybe marketing teams, like infrastructure teams. Like she's been her first 100 days learning, seeing what they need to do. She is changing Xbox's business model. Anything can happen here, guys. She is changing Xbox's business model. We don't know what it's going to turn into 100%, but this is makes things clear about the direction. Pouring more money into the bigger franchises, stopping funding the projects that they don't feel like are actually doing anything necessarily for their business. Um, Trying to restore the big IP, all of that kind of stuff, and um, yeah, like Xbox's employees over 20 something thousand people, and we're unfortunately you're gonna end up maybe losing like 16 to 20% total, roughly. I think that's a big chunk. You know, that's a big chunk, but that's not a unmanageable like thing to where you look at it like, well, we can't operate now. I mean, they're still here. They're still going to operate. They're going to transition roles. They're going to try and figure out this new structure. And we got to, like, as Xbox fans, we just got to hope for the best here and hope that this all works. Right? Like, we just got to hope all this works. I mean, that's what I want. I want all this to work out. I want Xbox to be strong. I want to have great games to look forward to. I want the studios to survive, and hopefully that's what happens. And I do like we got to acknowledge the fact that it would have been much easier for them at Microsoft just to say, okay, we're going to shut down these studios. Like it would have been much easier for them to do that. But they didn't. Now we could look at it. Well, it's just because they didn't want to take the PR hit. Well, even if that's true, still, like it would have been much easier for them to do so. So I'm not going to say it was the last couple weeks of doom and glooming. Every possible thing was much ado about nothing. I mean, there was definitely stuff here, but all of that stuff that was been coming out about every studio about the craziness, it kind of in a weird way, like it kind of helped them land softer on today. Now we're gonna have to see what the other layoffs are coming forward, and I think that's still part of the decision processes they're making. Maybe that has something to do with unions and stuff like that as well. Don't really know. But there's gonna be a massive amount of people leave Xbox and new business going forward. If Freddie Fox says didn't want to take the PR hit, shut up, shaking my damn head. You don't like. What do you mean? Like, even you don't think they would like? Okay, so if they shut down all those studios, that would be a million times worse than this, right? Do you not agree with that? And also, Microsoft as an entity would also be hated even more than they are now. Xbox as an entity would be hated even more than they are now. You don't think there's some kind of possibility about the thought process and how that's going to affect their brand and people's view of them going forward? And also possibly decisions going forward with being able to maybe acquire other things when they get judged by the FTC and the CMA and all these other kind of aspects as well, right? Like whatever the reasons are that they went the extra mile here to try and save the studios as opposed to being like a Sony and just shutting Blue Point down, we have to give them credit for that. We have to give them credit whatever the motives are. You know what I mean? Like it's that because it would be easier to do the opposite. But yeah, it would be like massively horrible to just announce 5 studios closing at once. I mean, you talk about crucifixion. You shut down Double Fine, like a legendary studio like that, like that's goes around to making some of the old classic adventure games, you know? That kind of stuff like sticks with this games media and people and all this kind of shit. Like there's a level of awareness here that I think we can appreciate. The level of awareness here that they are looking at this and thinking broader about how the moves they making today is going to impact them in the future, not just today, right? It would have been easier. It probably yes, Razor Ultron probably would have been cheaper for the savings that they could have gotten and all this stuff as write-offs and all these other kind of shit, right? To just shut them all down. Like that's why this happens with other publishers and platform holders. When they announce these things, it's just like, hey, we shut down this studio. Hey, we shut down this. Hey, we shut down that. Instead, they've gone on to try and figure out ways to save these studios. Whatever whatever the merits is, but whatever the reasoning, their thinking is behind that, like these are corporations, right? They don't just operate on goodwill. Okay, they operate on money and decision making, right? Like based on bottom dollars. Whatever the reasoning here is we can actually look at that and respect it because for me, closing down studios is like one of the worst things that happens because you lose an identity. Like each studio is capable of making something with unique signature, right? Like certain studios have a certain flavor to their games that nobody else can create. It's like a that's where the art comes in, where you can look at it as like nobody else could have made that game. Oh, that's definitely a game by that studio. That's definitely a game by that studio. In some of these studios, like definitely have that signature, you know. And when you shut down studios, you lose that, right? And then sometimes years later, somebody is like, "Hey, I'm making a spiritual successor to this," and this like we hired people that used to work on this game, but like sometimes that signature doesn't actually get passed along, you know, because you have this like kind of unique creative environment and things like that, and like you don't want to lose that. Like you don't want to lose that. That's the special sauce that comes with the studios, and that's why I think above all else, you got to try and save the studios, and I think that's like regardless of reasoning why deserves a lot of credit there. And I'd like definitely I think there's definitely probably some aspect to how it's going to affect them in the future, how it's going to affect their view, all this other kind of stuff that has to be weighed. And I respect them from actually considering that. Calorie says as a consumer, this is best case scenario for me. 9 layers of management removed hopefully means we get back to 2 3 year game development cycles and no games canceled. Sad for layoffs though. Yeah, I mean, move quicker, more efficiently, right? That's definitely something that we can all hope for. I mean, to have studios that you've owned for over 8 years that have really produced almost nothing, and some of the stuff the things they have produced have really not like given big results to the company, is not something that is is it worth your investment, right? Now, in Phil Spencer's Xbox, that was the vision, and it made sense for where they were trying to go, but it didn't work. It didn't work because Game Pass didn't grow enough.
If people want to call Xbox Corpu okay, but I don't think people can call them soulless anymore. They did what they could to not close any studios or IP.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Alvin. Like I said, thanks for the $5, Alvin. I appreciate it. Like you can look at this, whatever their like motives were for this. It takes extra effort to accomplish that, and also probably less immediate reward. You know what I mean? Like a less immediate reward. Like this had long term thinking behind it with the way that they were handling it with those studios. Because instead the games media is running around like, oh, that's a shit show. They don't know what's going on. Yeah, they were out there working, trying to salvage these studios, right? So like whatever the motives are behind it, you have to respect the fact that they went on and tried to do this because it is not the easiest thing. It's not the easier solution. It's not the easier solution. And when you do things that are harder and maybe less immediate helpful for you, but you're trying to one retain the studios that you have been investing in and you've developed relationships with, and two, salvage the games that you've already announced to your fans. I think those things deserve credit despite whatever the motives are behind that. And I do think definitely they have to consider the whole PR and mark in like the way that the vengefulness that would come after them with just outright shutting 5 studios at once. I mean, and if you could manage to save all five, that's just crazy admirable to me. For all the people that were like going back and forth with me about, like when I was calling out all the Sony studio closures, and they were like, Xbox is blah 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 blah. After this is said and done, here, PlayStation still has way more studio closures this generation than Xbox. Pretty crazy. Casey says, "I wonder what the balance sheet looks like with just 14 management layers on it. Probably rivals the studio. Those are big salaries. You're talking about the big sal. How many layers of salaries is that? You know, like the middle management tiers of overcomplication at times. You know, create it for me. Like it just creates a lot of politics. It creates a lot of people looking for credit all the time. People trying to move up the ladders and shit like that. People looking for their next raise and opportunity, the next promotion opportunity, trying to throw other people under the bus and all that kind of shit. Like when you have that many different middle management type things, it's like the motives get lost into the workplace competitive culture as opposed to serving what you're there to do, right? And that happens. I'm not just talking about Xbox. It happens with big business and corporate structures and all that kind of stuff. And to trim a lot of that out, I think is to run more efficiently is probably a very wise move, right? As cold hearted as it may sound, as these people are going to be looking for new jobs, if I was running a business, that's definitely one of the first places I would look at if I needed to make changes. Especially when it's taken way too long to deliver games from these studios that you've invested heavily in, and you're looking to make sure you don't keep repeating the same mistakes and have the same outcomes for all your new projects that are in development. You want to fix things. You don't want to just, like she said, you don't want to keep doing things the same way and expect different results by pouring more money onto it. It's like if you have a if you have a if you have a bonfire going that's just burning cash, the answer is not to just pour more cash on it. Sometimes it's to take some of the shit out of the fire, to let it burn down a little bit and just replace it with something else, right? So whatever the structure is going to be going forward, it looks like she is going to be streamlining this in a very meaningful way, purposeful way. Direction, like a purposeful way with direction behind it. This wasn't just the sake of we got to cut cash. Let's just get rid of these studios. We're closing them down. Like there was a lot of thought put behind these moves that were made. And I hope, like we've been saying, is when we get to the other side of this reset, is that everything is a lot stronger and more stable on the other side, and we have something really good to look at and appreciate, and games to look forward to playing, and you know the fact that these games weren't canceled is a huge plus for me. Calorie says, to be honest, I expected today to come around and I was going to want to go full PC gaming, but Asha has actually turned that around and I'm hopeful for the future. I don't know how she did that, to be honest. I think Calorie, I think the truth is the fact that she's just honest about what she's doing and reasons why. There's not a lot of PR BS in this, you know? This is just the reality of the situation, the moves we got to make to fix things, and this is what I want to do. And it's like, okay, well, thanks for laying it out. It's like when you have a fucking like, okay, I know some of you guys may hate sports analogies, right? I know some of you guys hate sports analogies and all this other kind of stuff, right? But it's like you're running an NFL team, and I know I'm a Cowboys fan, so I'm sure the Cowboys jokes are going to come along right now. Okay, so you have an NFL team, and you're building a roster. You have to get down to 52 players, right? But that's a mandate in the NFL. You know what I mean? Where you have a 52 player roster. In Xbox, there's not a or in gaming, there's not like a set limit. However, there is within the structure that they're trying to get to now, right? The money came down from ownership, and it's like, hey, this is our budget, this is our operating, this is what we have to get down to be able to um run this organization, right? So it's okay. You could look at Asha Sharma here as the general manager, and she's like, all right, let's look at this. Fuck, what do I have to work with? Let me see all the guys that are either on the team. Okay, who has bloated contracts? Who here has been overpaid and underproducing? Who here is like on the veteran salary that is on the tail end, or they're looking at all these kind of moves and things, and like I need to get the most productive team that I can, and they're gonna make the cut, right? So along the way, as you see, if you guys watch Hard Knocks on HBO or any of these other things, they if you've seen football movies and stuff, you have the time where it comes down to cuts, and it's like, hello, Mr. Football Player, the general manager would like to see you. They go and sit down. They say, it's been a pleasure working with you. I wish you good luck in the future, but it's not going to work out here anymore. And the player says, thanks for the opportunity. It was great. All right. I'm going to go try again somewhere else. Right? It's the cold, hard truth. You would like to keep all these guys. You would like to have a roster of 75 people, but it's not dictated by the rules or the budgets of what's allowed. And in this case, they got to get down to a size where they're going to be able to function and actually be able to, in her case, her wording in the last post that she had made is win. So comes down to cut down day. And this was mandated from the above. This was fucking cut down day. We're getting down to the final roster. And it hopefully to a good job to anybody who's making the team, and I'm sorry for anybody who didn't. Good luck in the future. There's a lot of you, right? But that's just the reality of the situation that we're in here. So we can hope that the way that this is managed here is going to lead to good results. And as we know in sports, doesn't always happen. So we'll have to wait and see. But these are the decisions she's making, and she's just standing behind them, owning it, and saying, "This is what it is. Here's what I think we need to do. This is what we're doing, and we're not just cutting those 5 players who are the studios. We're actually have negotiated terms with them to be on other teams." If you're a GM or if you're a fan of a sports team and you manage to see some of these players you like or whatever move on and actually, have a career somewhere else, you'd be like, "Hey, fuck yeah, I'm glad that they still are in the sport." You know, like I'm happy that these studios weren't closed. I really am. What's up, Pat Man? How's it going? Sea Lord of Bravo says, speaking of CEO salaries, do we know what Asha makes? No idea. Bilu knows says, so they laid off a person who hated working for the company. Maybe they chose the right people to lay off. Yeah, if you don't like working there, I would say they should take the severance package and move on and find something else, right? And they probably should have been, if they didn't like working there, they probably should have already been doing that, knowing what was around the corner. Freddie says, I'm a Cowboys fan. Also, Cowboys going to kick ass this year. Hey, I got hope the defense can rebound this year. And hopefully the offense stays good. You know how it is in Cowboys land. The one year the defense is up, the offense is down. The one year the offense is up, the defense is down. If we can find just a way to hit both in the same year, that'd be pretty damn awesome. That'd be pretty damn awesome. Just going through the comments. Razor says, I'm sure Asha makes less than Phil. Yeah, I mean, Phil was at Microsoft for like 20 something years. So, I'm sure he had a lot of like benefits and because of that. Rams fan here, but the love y'all have for your Cowboys is respected. Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, I mean, we haven't won shit since the '90s, but always gonna always gonna root for my Cowboys. Spider Man says Cowboys suck. You suck, Spider Man. You fucking ass. I'm just kidding. Now I see a lot of I do see a lot of like Browns fans and shit like that talk shit about the Cowboys a lot. I got be mindful who you're a fan of before you talk shit about the Cowboys. Just saying. I don't know who you're a fan of though, Spider. Sean Johnson says, not sure what her salary is, but the Google machine says her net worth is 59 million. I'm sure she's had some major investment with some of the companies that she's ran with stocks and all that kind of stuff. So, that she's been at. So I imagine that keeps every time she switches companies, like it's all got to be worth something, you know. It's all got to be worth something. and she seems pretty smart. So I don't think she's gonna let it go to waste. You're from New York, Freddie? Right on. You'll be there for opening day. Right on. Try being a Bears fan, Rainbolt says, and possibly watching your team leave the state. Yeah, dude, the Bears can't leave fucking Chicago, man. That would just be outrageous. I've seen reports on that. That would be I can't imagine the ownership group would allow that to happen. Like they have to vote on those things. And they would look at it like you ain't leaving Chicago. I think like they have to get it past the ownership voting. And I will say this: if the Bears left Chicago, there will be a new team in Chicago. Like, but yeah, I don't think they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna leave. I think he's using like that guy with the Bears. I think he's using like scare tactics to try and get a better deal. But I don't think he's gonna get anything past the ownership voting because Chicago's too big of a market. El Ray Tito says my cousins were Cowboys fans, and I can say the Broncos have had the Cowboys card for a while, but I won't go there. Yeah, getting rid of Micah Parsons, sure, it sure didn't help us. You're right, it didn't. It didn't help us last year. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. Sean Johnson says, if anyone think if Asha took over a wee bit sooner, would Perfect Dark still be alive? That's a good question because the decisions that were made last year with the canceling of Project Blackbird and also with the initiative, what would have happened if Asha was in charge when those decisions were made? Would they have come to a different result? I don't know. Wow. Domino's Pizza UK post Brett Bingham just pointed me to this is we've sold 172,288,912 pizzas since PlayStation last posted. That's crazy, man. It's absolutely fucking crazy. Well, how you guys feeling after the hammer fell? I mean, are you feeling? I'm gonna put a poll in the chat. After today's layoffs, are you hopeful for Xbox? I would get a read. I haven't seen. I mean, I've seen some of the games media and stuff as usual, you know, but I haven't seen.
The big studios that they
I need to mute this. A lot of negativity, like outrage, like extreme outrage. Like Plume, shout out to Plume, says the Xbox tax over blowing the studio closure seems to have backfired as the attention is still on the bigger issue for consumers, which is PlayStation killing physical games. Yeah, like like I was saying, like the outrage in a weird twist of fate, the all the speculation from the media reporting on every rumor and everything and studio closure and every game getting canceled and all these things has kind of led to a softer landing for Xbox. Apem says I feel the same as I did yesterday. And I'm gonna be honest, it honestly wasn't as bad as I thought. I will say that I think moving on from Undead Labs specifically is like I think it's a mistake for Xbox. I think that the State of Decay license, and I don't know if they are going to retain rights to that franchise, but I would imagine that would go along with Undead Labs because Undead Labs isn't worth anything really without State of Decay, right? So like I think there's a lot of potential in State of Decay as an IP. As I was saying this before, like I think that studio is on the verge of having State of Decay 3. It's going to be I think it's going to be a very successful big game. And I think Microsoft and Xbox, if they're looking to do more transmedia stuff, which I know that's one of Asha's goals. I think that could lead to TV shows, movies, stuff, and you could have a massive thing with State of Decay. So just as a pure business sense, like I think that one is a mistake of a business decision for them. Now I know they're looking at it like, hey, we've had these guys for 8 years and they haven't put out a fucking game for us yet. So there's that obvious conclusion. But I think going forward, I think you're on the cusp of something with that franchise that comes along with Undead Labs, and I do think like it may be a mistake to move on from that at this point, but you know what I mean. If I still get to play the game and the studio gets to live on, then I'm still happy at that about that. I care about playing it more than I do Xbox's business decisions or what mistakes they make or whatever as far as what they own and don't own. I care more about the game and being able to play it, and I hope it is a hit and Undead Labs they can do stuff with it with whatever new owner they have, right? Um yeah, if I was Xbox, I would have probably looked at it and tried to find a way to make a different decision with that. I don't know if they know what they have on their hands. You know what I mean? I don't know if they understand what they have with State of Decay 3. And like imagine State of Decay imagine that okay, so let me put it into perspective. Imagine State of Decay 3 hits. Okay. People have been anticipating it for a long time. It comes out next year or whatever. It grows into this massive audience and it becomes the most popular zombie game around the survival. You have streamers playing it all over the place, whatever. You know that you have people like the fucking burnt peanut drawing people into it. Like, just imagine it becomes some kind of massive phenomenon. I'm not saying it necessarily 100% will. I think it'll have a big audience, but like, it has a chance to catch on into something even bigger. I really think that. And if it actually hits in that way, I mean, they will look at this and be like, man, fuck. You know, I can't believe we had that on the cusp of releasing after all those years of investment, and somebody else is going to get the payoff. Somebody else is going to get the benefit, you know? Um, like I think that one would be like, I would like, I would tell Asha, like, if I was an advisor, I'd be like, that's the one out of these that you got to find a way.
Xbox moving away from State of Decay makes me thoroughly unenthused. I'll be super pissed if whoever picks them up ends up shuttering the studio.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, when you have these, you know, sales or to different entities or whoever was purchasing them, you know, with Ninja Theory and Undead Labs, it is always you don't know what's going to happen, right? When they go independent, you know, like is Double Fine going to go to doing Kickstarters again? You know, are they going to go back to having to kickstart their next projects? You know, you'll know they'll have some success with it, and they'll be able to operate in some form or fashion as whatever scale they're trying to. I think that's just what they how they managed to survive so long. Um, Casey says, if someone tries to shut them, I just hope they put in a clause to buy them back. Yeah, that would be a smart thing to do. You know, and I do wonder also with some of these acquisitions that they had made in the last decade or so, or since 2018, what kind of clauses were there in there about shuttering? You know, contracts regarding like payoffs, or I don't know. It's interesting to think about the contract process and what goes into it regarding closures and all that kind of stuff. Ron Slusher says Xbox is resetting. Trust the process. All Good says IPs probably revert back to Microsoft. Cybergunner says I'm hopeful for Xbox. Dragonfly Jones says maybe it'll make them a better studio. Judah Roars says the problem with State of Decay that you couldn't create your character and choose your perks. Yeah, it's kind of one of the cool things about it though, is being able to choose who you want to run with, based on who's there. Like, who do you jive with? Who's the personality you like to run with? Oh, and when they get tired, who do you switch to, or they get hurt? And that's one of the things I actually kind of liked about State of Decay 3 is because you kind of have this like set people, then you're kind of like going through them, and it's like they come across as individuals. So it comes across you're playing more of you're still playing a story, even though it's not, because it's not you, it's like their story, and you're helping manage the situation. Yeah, it's like being in The Walking Dead and forcing them to make decisions. You know what I mean? It's like you're gonna take control of Rick and make him make decisions for the colony, or Maggie, or whatever. It just Negan. Do you want to be a Negan? You want to just be outright just vicious to other people? I appreciate the 5, Silent Cipher. You rock, man. Apem says that Double Fine will try to make a game to keep the lights on. That's for sure. Yeah, and I think like Tim Schafer is such a legend in the industry and has so many connections and like friends that would probably invest and stuff. Like you just, and he keeps things smaller as well with their operation. That like I'm not as worried about Double Fine. I do uh, Compulsion's indie future. I am a little bit more concerned with that and what they're able to create and put out. It took them a long time to get South of Midnight and out, and they can't probably afford the same amount of investment. Now we know that Xbox have given them a runway for their next game, so I don't know what that means. You know, but like, does that mean they seeding the next games with some kind of deal or something like that, kind of like they did with Toys for Bob? But then at some point, will that funding run out? If they go over budget, are they screwed? You know, that's where the interesting things are going to come into play here with this stuff. Because if they take as long as they did to make South of Midnight, and they don't get a huge return, what does that mean for the future of that studio? Right. So, the independency always comes with a risk. That's why these studios sold to Microsoft in the first place. But it's the outcome of them becoming independent again is no different than if they were never acquired. So people can't say, well, Microsoft should have never acquired them if they go on to just be in their original state, and maybe even stronger for it because of the financial boon that they got during the process. Um, yeah, the people that are affected the most is all the, obviously that's the immediate like terminations and layoffs. John Johnson says, well, I guess Microsoft won't be purchasing any more publishers or studios for the foreseeable future. Hard stop on acquisitions, I'd imagine. I wouldn't necessarily say that, Sean Johnson. Now, also, part of the way they could have been handling these departures could also be to ease any concerns from CMA or FTC in the future if they do make any mergers acquisitions. However, like, I don't know if the mergers and acquisitions they may be looking to make would necessarily just be on the development or studio side. They could be looking for things in technology or platform side, hardware development. Who knows exactly? Because in the other reset post that Asha Sharma made, she mentioned specifically M&A under the platform section of that post, and regarding technology, that said they would be open to M&A to move quicker, where other like doing things and building up slowly would take too long. So if they can find a match for them that would actually help them achieve what their new vision is, I would say that could be on the table. But I don't know if that would necessarily be a publisher or studios, or if it would be something else that we don't really know. You know what I mean? Could be some kind of technology or like um, stuff like that. And like Amit Kumar says, they're still investing the same amount in gaming, they're just prioritizing it in other places like their big IP. So if you lose all right, if you keep in the same investment and you're cutting away so much, that investment then it gets returned into other places. So I imagine this is going to be strengthening some of the other uh, entities, possibly. There was a report about Bethesda today as well, and I specifically we can look at this. So Bethesda, this is from Culture Crave via business. Bethesda will be refocused with the Xbox changes today and will prioritize its key franchises: The Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein. Interesting that they didn't mention Starfield. just just pointing that out. This is from Bloomberg, actually. So I don't know if that's something that they said in an interview to him or what, or where he got those names of games from, or if they just pulled them out of a hat. Um, I don't see where they link this that it actually mentions anything about Bethesda. Okay. Again, Sharma wrote that no publicly announced projects will be canceled as part of the restructuring, but the cuts will take place across the entire organization, including the studios that Xbox is retaining, in part to focus on higher priority projects. ZeniMax will face a significant overhaul and will pivot to focus on its biggest franchises: Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Quake, and Wolfenstein. Xbox will make deep cuts to its platform division in order to reduce management layers and release products more quickly, Sharma wrote. Xbox will implement a number of other changes to invest in more in blockbusters like Minecraft, such as shifting around reporting structures and moving to more centralized studio model. So some of this stuff wasn't actually in the blog, but Jason Schreier is adding things to it. So I'm not sure where he's getting that information from. So like what kind of what kind of investment does that look like? Like what does that look like? Investing more into those games. Are you acquiring studios to make those games? Or are you building up those development teams? Right? Are like how are you reallocating focus to those franchises? Like that's something I want to see, I want to know. That's right, Judah. With a whopping 92%. It's only 50 votes, but still that's pretty strong. After today's layoffs, are you hopeful for Xbox? 92% still says yes. I mean, were y'all expecting? I want to know how many expecting. I gotta ask this. You can just answer in the chat. You know, I'm not gonna do a damn poll. How many of you were expecting at least one studio closure announcement today? When the hammer fell, how many of you were expecting at least one, if not more, studio closures announced? Or how many? Yeah, I'm gonna say put the number of studio closures you were expecting in the chat. Like your realistic thought of what you thought was gonna happen. I'm gonna say I expected two. I expected two studio closures. I expected two studio closures and an announcements of a couple studios going independent or something like that. 2, 5, 7, 5, 2, 3, 2 to 3, 1, 0 to 1, 1, 4. I mean, we knew that something was going to happen. I mean, this was like the whole reset post that she had made. We had already started speculating before all the games media went out there and like talked about all the rumors going on. I was expecting probably like two like closures, and it was gonna be probably like something I like a compulsion, you know, or like a studio that we haven't really heard the name of much that was like behind the scenes making like a support studio for like Activision games or something, you know, like or maybe like the Elsewhere Entertainment studio that hasn't really been revealed to the public too much yet, stuff like that. I expected like maybe a couple of announcements of that kind of stuff, and nothing as far as any of that goes. And then Kumar says, "I didn't have faith they would find buyers, but I'm glad they did." Now, and Arcane Leon is still up in the air, but I think that there's a lot of hope for them based on this process going to be taking a while with the whole France and the labor laws there and all that kind of stuff. Like I think that probably some good hope for Arcane Leon, and like I don't know if they're going to be able to like because those they have like Dishonored that they've worked on, like Deathloop. They're working on Blade now. Like what? I don't know. No, imagine if they're being sold that they would keep those because they were part of Bethesda. Like what about Prey? So I don't know if they would move on with their IPs like the other studios, or maybe they would allow them to keep the games that they worked on. I don't. That's going to be an interesting situation to keep an eye on with Arcane because like Double Fine, like those were like not under those were under Xbox Game Studios, not under Bethesda. And like when Xbox acquired Bethesda and ZeniMax Bethesda, those were part of you know what I mean as part of that deal. Arcane was just one of these developers that Bethesda owned. It's gonna be I'm gonna be curious how it works out with Arcane. And Blade needs to come out. Yeah, I mean, I would say the Poison like Bloodbath was definitely overplayed. I think like just the if you just say the number of people that's gonna be out of Microsoft this year, 3,200, or from Xbox, I mean, um, that number alone is pretty massive. So like I wouldn't say necessarily like 'cause that's a lot, you know. But if you do look at the size of the organization as a whole, it does put it into a little bit of a perspective. Um, and the things that hit hardest is full closures, right? Full closures of studios, because then you never have the opportunity for regrowth and stuff like that. You never have a chance for rebound. You never have a chance to become, the next to have that hit. And I think whenever you keep that culture in the studios there, I think it's an important thing. Remember, like, there's all these like rumors about Halo Studios and stuff. Like, Obsidian was even mentioned and then retracted. People were just throwing shit at the wall. Lydian says no, Mav. Microsoft laid more last year. Microsoft did, not Xbox. Xbox as a whole, I think last year was like 1,500. Last July they did 1,500. Xbox, I mean Microsoft had like 9,000. Microsoft had 9,000. I'm talking about just Xbox, right? This time Microsoft had 4,800, and Xbox is 3,200 of that. Now again, I'm unclear if when they saying the numbers, if they're allocating the studios that are going independent towards the 3,200 number, because the language that she used kind of made it seem that way. The 1,600 today, and there's going to be another 1,600 within this fiscal year. Whether that's accounting for those studios or not, I don't know, and I don't know how many people that would make up, right? So I'm not. It may be like Bloodbath is like kind of overstated, but at the same time, 3,200 is a significant amount. Is a very significant amount. I mean, you have some publishers that have that amount of people at them. So, but you look at Xbox as a whole, it's like 20,000. So they're definitely trimmed down. Yeah, Microsoft laid off 9,000 last July. This July is announced for 4,800. So as a Microsoft, it's smaller. As Xbox, it's larger because the percentage of Xbox towards that is much higher this time. However, like I said, I think like ultimately it seems like it's like these decisions, like it wasn't just to trim it wasn't just like, all right, we got to cut costs. This is what it is. Let's just find the most expensive things that we can cut to try and save what we can. No, this was like purposeful, thought out for the future decisions, right? And that's why I think that 92% of the vote, and I saw Calories post earlier, like, there is this kind of, amongst the bad news, you actually have a little bit of faith in the direction. You know what I mean? Like you have like a little bit of faith in this direction about, and like being hopeful that this has a chance to work out for them and become something better and stronger because of how she phrased the decisions that she's making with this, right? Like the way that she phrased how this is what's wrong, this is what we need to do. This is what's wrong, this is what we need to do. This is the reality of the situation. We have to fix it by doing this. It's not just like, hey, due to the industry and due to market conditions, we are realigning to become stronger and here's what we're doing. No, it's here's the problem, here's what we need to address, and to make this happen, we have to do this, and we are still going to invest and reallocate resources into other areas. Like there was purposeful meaning and decision making behind this. Lydian says Bloodbath equals 10,000 employees. You could, I mean, you could just throw a number out there, and everybody could have a different number of what they determine a bloodbath is to them. You say bloodbath, that's over half of Xbox at this point. That would be insanity, right? That would be absolutely insanity if Xbox announced they're literally cutting everything in half all at once. And yes, that would be bloodbath for sure, and beyond that. But you could, to some people, 500 I could be that. To some people, 1,000. You know, Some people could be like 15,000 is my number. What is a blood? I think so. I think the language used is strong. I think more so it's like the feeling that's going to be permeating throughout these studios because all the studios are affected, right? Like I probably almost every studio there is seeing some form of change within the structures, and you're gonna have a little bit of exodus, whether it's management positions that they feel like is redundant, whether it's uh development teams laid off, that were like 40% of this team that was working on this project is gone, or whatever it is, right? The contract workers, all this other kind of stuff, it's going to hit them internally and give that kind of feeling. Us on the outside looking at it, well, numbers perspective, they got 20,000 employees and they're losing, right now about 8%, and then you're going to lose about another 8% later. So then, that's like 16%. What does that equate to? You can just look at pure numbers, but like I think it's talk about more of like the feeling going on internally from the people that are affected by this, not just like how we look at it from the outside. You know what I mean? I think that's why that language is used. However, like effect of how this is going to affect Xbox going forward and what they become, I think like ultimately these decisions where we can look at it as like, okay, they're making these cuts across the board. They're doing all this. I think these are all purposeful to make Xbox stronger. I really do. Like you look at the fact that we didn't lose any fucking studios or games get canceled. Like I mean, that's amazing. Literally, like that is. I asked this question in the chat: how many studios? Everybody except for maybe one person thought there was going to be at least one studio cut. I'm gonna ask the same question about games. How many games did you expect to be canceled? And now, how many games did you expect to be canceled today? I was probably thinking maybe one, possibly two. Whatever the studios they moved on from, I thought they was probably going to be canceled. Two, so two, I guess I would say. Zero. I got two zeros. I got a four. A Dr. Dingle that says I thought State of Decay was cooked. I mean, based on the way games media is talking, you would think everything's fucking cooked, right? I mean, you would think everything's always cooked at Xbox if you just base things on games media. Um, but like I didn't know like what studios were going to make it and what weren't, and what was going to go independent, and whatever studios didn't make it, I was figuring those games would be shut down. So didn't know what it was going to be. But the fact that there's zero studio closures announced today and zero game cancellations for gamers, that is a massive win. And for those teams, that's a massive win. Duck and Death says the reports were so exaggerated, I stopped worrying about any of it. The only thing I was convinced of were layoffs were coming as usual for June 30th. Yeah, that's become par for the course when you're in the phase that the industry's been in the last few years, right? But the thing is that every time Xbox is having the same kind of industry things go on within them as other platforms do or whatever, it's exaggerated, it's painted out as the worst example in the industry. It's painted as, well, this is what happens when you buy studios. This is what happens when you do this, what happens when you do that. But again, nobody was saying the same shit about all the studios that PlayStation acquired that they shut down, that didn't get a fucking chance to live on independently, that didn't get a fucking chance to be sold to another entity. They acquired studios and just fucking shut them down. And yet, leading up to all of this, Xbox and Microsoft are the ones that are doing shit all fucking wrong. This is why, this is the massive outcome of purchasing and acquiring studios and trying to grow and all. And yeah, maybe there's some truth to that, but how come the same fucking questions weren't asked about PlayStation on fucking mainstream news with interviews with podcasters talking about the situation at Bungie, talking about the fucking situations at any of those other studios that PlayStation closed down, like Blue Point? No, they don't ever fucking get shit on for anything except finally the physical games thing was so big that people can't ignore it. Like, Xbox should be praised for how they're handling that situation as opposed to just shutting them down. And I challenge I know that there's people that are going to leave comments on this because there's always a couple of the PlayStation guys that like try and debate and argue with me because everything Xbox does is bad and everything PlayStation does is good according to them. And usually here in the chat as well. But I challenge any of these motherfuckers out there to say how PlayStation shutting all those studios down without them having a chance to go independent, without them having buyers, all that other kind of stuff, is better than fucking Xbox finding new homes or letting these studios go independent. How? I challenge any of these people out there to tell me that, and how it's better that all these PlayStation studios shut down, which is way more than Xbox has had. Why aren't these people up on the fucking CNN or whatever having to fucking answer questions about PlayStation's layoffs, about PlayStation studio closures, about the state of PlayStation and the decisions that led them up to this? Instead, they just are so pissed that they're not getting their fucking physical games anymore. Because that's all they fucking care about is themselves. They don't give a shit about the fucking games. They don't give a shit about the fucking studios. All they care about is getting fucked more from PlayStation, and they don't ever fucking hold them to anything except for this. Except for this. Finally, they're standing up for something. Finally. But why aren't they having to answer questions about PlayStation's restructuring and the problems they had with the acquisitions and all this shit and having to close down studios? They should be looking at Xbox as an example of how to fucking handle that situation with moving on from studios. Well, how come PlayStation just closed Blue Point after acquiring them? You remember after Blue Point was fucking acquired, they were excited about being able to possibly make their own project. They did Demon Souls remake, and then it was like they talked about it like, oh yeah, this is like we're gonna maybe have Blue Point make their own game. Blue Point is like excited about the possibility of making their own thing. Well, it turns out they had them making some other kind of bullshit, and they canceled that. And Blue Point, hey, you're out of here. Sorry, wasn't working out. Peace. We're shutting you down. No questions asked. Bye. They're gonna have to. PlayStation's like, yeah, sorry, yeah, we did it. It is. Hey, next week you're gonna be talking about Xbox anyway, guys. You're gonna be talking about the possibilities of Xbox and how bad they are and all this other kind of fucking stuff. So it doesn't really matter what we do. We just get to just do whatever we fucking want because all you guys ever talk about is Xbox is a disaster. We can make the biggest fucking news in the history of gaming talking about, or history of console gaming talking about the end of physical media on PlayStation. And then the next day, you're going to write an article behind a paywall called Xbox is a disaster. That's what you're going to do. You're going to talk for 2 weeks leading up to the Xbox layoffs that we all know is coming because they told us they're going through a restructure. And you're going to talk about that and how all the possibilities and what a shit show and wild fucking place it is there right now. How nobody knows what's going on and how all these studios are going to close and all these games are going to get canceled. You're going to be talking about all that shit all this fucking time. So we're just going to go out there and say, hey, yeah, we're into physical media. Hopefully nobody cares about it because you're gonna write your paywalled Xbox is a disaster fucking articles. I know you are, so it's all good. We're just gonna do this. We're gonna stay silent. We're gonna sit here and just chill. Let this whole Xbox thing play out. We're just gonna let it all play out. This time I don't think it worked out for PlayStation. People aren't as pissed off at this as they thought they were gonna be. People are still talking about the fucking physical games thing. People aren't buying this fucking shit anymore from the games media bullshit posts and articles constantly. No matter who they fucking have on their shows, no matter who they have on mainstream media talking shit about Xbox, no matter who they have anywhere talking shit about Xbox, people aren't buying that shit anymore. People are done with it. People are fucking done with games media and their bullshit opinion takes constantly. They think they're better than YouTube creators. They think they're better than like bloggers. They think they're better than fucking streamers or any of this shit. They think they're better than them because they're objective games media. Oh, we went to journalism school. You write a fucking opinion articles. That's all you ever do, guys. You just write opinion articles. The only difference is you're afraid to put your face most of the time on fucking camera and actually say what you think. You're afraid to actually stand. You'd rather sit behind a keyboard with your little fucking profile picture on some website because if it's written down in a fucking website, it somehow means more than somebody that's actually in front of a camera speaking these words from their mouth. It's biased opinions just like anybody else. And you're all full of shit. All of that games media is full of fucking shit. They sat up there for like 2 weeks trying to create the downfall of Xbox because we all knew that there was a reset slash layoff thing coming. And this just shat all over them. Xbox closed 0 studios. Xbox canceled 0 games. I repeat, Xbox closed 0 studios. Xbox canceled 0 games. How many has PlayStation shut down within the last couple years? And then ask yourself how many Xbox has. You'll be fucking surprised at the number of studios closed by PlayStation this generation as opposed to Xbox. You'll be surprised at the amount of game cancellations by PlayStation as opposed to Xbox. And you should be looking in yourself in the mirror and being like, why am I talking about Xbox? I should be talking about PlayStation. Because as all the shit that I said Xbox could do, or Xbox might do, or Xbox could possibly consider doing, has been happening on the other fucking side. While I've been sucking PlayStation's dick, they've been getting off on doing all this shit without me even paying attention. Because while I was sucking that dick, I was too busy thinking about hating Xbox. Give me fucking more. Oh yeah, baby. I love that horsey cock. That's all they do. All they do is think about hating Xbox. Meanwhile, PlayStation is fucking them from behind. You just gotta look at it for the reality of the situation that you're in. Okay? Ugh. They took your physical disc away now. They took your physical disc away. And that's the only thing you've ever fucking gotten upset about. You fucking guys. They finally did it to you. They finally did it. They finally pissed you off. Sorry, I don't know that dick's gonna be in your mouth again soon enough. Well, took your disc, your films, your TV. They took fucking 500 movies away from you that you bought, guys. You dumbasses. What the fuck are you arguing about Xbox for? Zero closures, zero game cancellations. They stole 500 movies from you. And then right after that, a couple days after, they announced, guess what? This is how you're going to have to purchase your games with no other options. Good luck. Good luck with that. Oh, you want to play the games on PC? Well, we took that away too. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck with that. Buy a $900 box and get to play your games only on that fucking box, only sold by our storefront. We don't let other people resell our keys online. We don't even fucking allow refunds. Good luck with that. Buy a game here. Good luck with that. A few years later, the license might expire, and we might just take it from your fucking library. Good luck with that. We don't have any answers to disc to digital or anything like that to announce during our announcement that physical games are going away. Good luck with that. Good luck with that fucking magic cube dancing around at your fucking showcase, that place that don't fucking belong in a God of War game. Good luck with that. That dick's starting to taste like piss now, ain't it? Yeah, they Okay, just said 30 minutes after this stream ends, Xbox is going to announce the studio closed. Probably. It's my luck. That usually happens. Shit like that.
You know dudes had a majority of those hit movies, rolling on the floor laughing emoji.
Appreciate the $2. Oh yeah. Appreciate the $2, Dan Lazaro. They've been talking like 2 weeks. How long has it been? These fucking articles and this nonstop like podcast ranting. Man, Grub must feel like a fucking moron right now. And like, oh, yeah, I heard the Obsidian thing was actually real. I mean, they talked about it. They talk. Man, people talk about shit all the fucking time. Doesn't mean it's happening. That's not fucking news or something worth reporting on. You're hearing. Well, take your ear away from the fucking bathroom stall, you fucking pervert. You ain't supposed to be hearing some shit. You ain't supposed to be hearing some shit. Some shit's meant to just be discussions between people, and they could say, hey, what if we do this? And the other person can say, no, that's really fucking stupid. We shouldn't do that. And you could say, okay, well, we're moving on that. Oh, but did you hear that they possibly discussed doing this? Oh my gosh, it must be such a shit. Things are moving so fast there right now. I don't know how anybody understands what's happening. I don't understand what's fucking happening right now. Nah, what's going on at Xbox? How can they possibly be managing to operate in this chaotic system where things are changing? Holy fucking shit. They announce a restructure, they announce they're doing a reset, and oh my god, for some reason they're actually discussing it? Oh my god, we got a report on this. Oh, you know what? I'm hearing that this studio might actually be, closed. I'm hearing that this studio is fighting for their life right now. Oh, people are flying around making deals left and right, just trying to save what they can. I couldn't even imagine being at one of these studios right now. I couldn't even imagine it. Holy shit. It must be insane to be working at Microsoft right now. They're just a shit show. Xbox is a disaster. Oh, PlayStation took physical disc away? Well, if Xbox wasn't such a disaster, this wouldn't be happening to us. Well, we're just going to move on and talk more about how there might be more closures and other shit shows things going on at Xbox. 0 studio closures. 0 game cancellations. I mean, I don't know why they're making games exclusive again. They're trying to be competitive? What, could you imagine being at one of these studios and them saying that we're going to make games only on Xbox? The shit that they say. If me and you were in the room with Satya and Adela, we would tell them, Satya, stop hardware. Stop making hardware. You got to stop making hardware, Satya, because what are you even doing? You need to eat a bag of shit. You need to eat a bag of shit, Satya, because what are you doing? You're trying to make games exclusive? You're trying to make a games exclusive. Stop hardware. What are you doing? You think Helix is the answer? You think selling $1,000 box is the answer? You just want to not put games everywhere anymore? Just stop hardware. Just get out of the platform business, Satya. You miserable fuck. The shit people say. They want Xbox to fail. They want it to fail. They write articles constantly about how they want Xbox, about how Xbox is failing because they're trying to fucking dream it into existence. They're trying to make it come to fruition. They're hoping if they say it enough times and make enough videos about Xbox is dead, blah, 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 about mismanagement, misoperation, miss this, miss that, horrible, blah, 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 that eventually it'll come true. It can't possibly be that they're trying to make moves to operate their business in their own way or trying to overcome the obstacles that everybody else is facing, or possibly that they're trying to find ways to be competitive and that they made bets that didn't work out and so they're transitioning into other bets and they're making moves because they're trying to operate a fucking business in the same way that other people are making moves and mistakes and operating their business. It couldn't be that. It couldn't just be the facts that they're in a very competitive industry and trying to do what they can. And they are made plenty of mistakes, as has PlayStation, which you guys always fail to fucking report on. Let's see. Let me catch up with the chat. Greg would have been escorted out before having an opportunity to say anything with a dork. I would play for Satya the clip of Greg Miller and be like, this is what you're up against. This is what the media thinks of Xbox. This is what you're constantly having to battle against. Don't give them shit. Don't let these people win. They are your enemy. And you need to do everything in your power to make this person suffer. Make him play Elder Scrolls 6 on an Xbox. Because he hates PC gaming. That guy hates PC gaming. Make Greg Miller play Elder Scrolls 6 on a fucking Xbox. Make him play Fallout games on an Xbox. Make him play anything from Bethesda or any other studios on an Xbox. Make them suffer and cringe going to the store to buy their $900 Helix or $1,000, whatever it's going to fucking cost them. Hit them where it hurts. Let him cry about it. Force his ass into the ecosystem. Be competitive.
Who gonna break first, PS or Mac?
Appreciate the $2 super chat, Dan Lazaro. Who, I don't know what you mean by that. Shout out to Mag. Mag is awesome. Who gonna break first, PS or Mag? I would say PS. Because people are mad at PlayStation now. People are mad at PlayStation now. Now some of them are already running they've been running interference. They've been making shit talking Xbox articles. They've been making articles about Xbox is doing this. Xbox, blah 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 blah. Hey, Xbox is doing this, Xbox is doing that. They've been running interference. Making Xbox's disaster post, like, but people are pissed still. So, like, the whole PlayStation thing with the physical games is not going away. Like, as much as PlayStation wants it to, I think were hoping today was going to be the day. Hey, it's fine. Everybody hates Xbox enough again today that we can break free of our prison of non-posting. So they've been judging the reactions from their posts, from their announcements, and PlayStation guys are still not having it. And I would add fuel to the fire. If I was a PlayStation guy and I was pissed about the physical games thing on there, I would be asking them, why did you shut Bluepoint Games down instead of having them go independent or be acquired by another entity? Why did you just shut them down and announce it like that? Right? Why did you do that with all the other studios? Why didn't you do what Xbox did? Because this paints you to look really shitty, right? Or it's just the realities of business, is what the media would say in that case. Poison Maniac says, make Greg Miller become a PC player. Yeah, he hates PC. He hates PC. So yeah, hey, just fucking make Elder Scrolls 6 on PC only. Fuck. No, I would punish Xbox gamers. We ain't having that. Oh yeah, Vin, 100%. They're not leaving place. They're gonna say they're gonna try and make their statements right now and all this shit, but eventually they'll come around and they'll be like, you know what? Maybe I was overreacting. It's just the reality of the world now. Things, that's how they're gonna flip on it. They will. Either PlayStation will flip or they will. And like if PlayStation ain't flipping, which I don't think they are, they're they're gonna do it. Like all those gamers are gonna be like, hey, I'm still gaming on PlayStation. I mean, did Mag say he was done with PlayStation, Dan? I didn't see that. If he said that, is that what you meant? No more physical dicks. No more physical. They do, Jago. They won't admit it, but they love that shit. Absolutely. Yeah, they love the feel of it. Well, guys, it's been real. Been a little over 2 hours now. Had to get thoughts out about all this stuff. We went through and dissected it. I did say I was gonna do cover the Ains's post at the beginning, but I got carried away into my shenanigans. So maybe I'll read that and then talk about it tomorrow or something after more stuff comes out, because there will be, like, I know that there's different aspects of this, like where did the 1600 number come from, what studios were affected the most, right? Is there combining of studio, like we don't know what's going on in some other aspects of it. I want to hopefully we'll find out some more things, right? Some more clarifying things, and have another reason to talk about this tomorrow. But thank you to everybody who was hanging out today and watching the stream. You guys rock. Rainbolt's the stream got me through the last 2 hours of the office. Dude, that's awesome. Awesome. And yeah, every single one of you, hope you have a fucking good day. Appreciate the support. And if you like the content, share it out, notification bell, sub, all that kind of stuff. And anybody offended by my shenanigans, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding. Have a good one, everybody. Peace out. Bye.